Whew. Okay, assalamualaikum everyone. Sorry, I was doing something and I thought I should finish it first. Yeah, so okay, sorry for the disturbance. Hopefully, it will not happen now. So, last time we started talking about the traffic data collection and uh, we looked at why we need traffic data, what are the applications of traffic data, what are the tools and techniques we can use to collect traffic data, and then we were talking about different types of traffic studies, including we talked about volume studies, speed studies, and travel time studies. Today we are going to start with delay studies. Now delay is part of travel time, but your whole travel time is not delay, right? What is delay? What part of travel time you consider delay? Obviously, the most common answer would be that the time in which you are stopped, and you are stopped maybe because of because of a traffic signal, because of an accident, because of any blockage, obstruction. So whenever you are stopped during your travel time, you consider it as a delay, because obviously you are moving, right, and you want to move. So whenever you have to stop, it is part of your delay. But delay is not only that. Sometimes you are moving, you are not stopped, but still it is considered as delay. And so delay is any part of the travel time which you find annoying, in which you are feeling angry, in which you are feeling distressed, not because of something which happened at home or not because of the exam you gave. You are feeling annoying because of the traffic condition. Okay, so you think you could move faster, okay, on this road, but you cannot move faster because of some other reason, because of your surrounding, because of traffic, because of a speed hump, because of a traffic camera, whatever the reason is. So you feel that you could move faster, but you have to slow down. That is also considered part of your delay. So any part of your travel time where you are feeling annoyed because of your surrounding and you have to slow down, that is considered as delay. The part of that part of travel time is considered as a delay. Okay, and we'll talk about delay studies later on, and then there I will tell you how we calculate these things. Then we have density studies. Now you would say that I told you earlier density is not directly measured. Okay, because density is vehicles per mile. So then you have to stop the vehicles for 1 mile and count all the vehicles, okay, which is not possible. So studies are not done directly, but there are some detectors which can give you the occupancy. So you put these detectors on the road, and these detectors or sensors can tell you for how much time they were occupied by a vehicle. And using that occupancy, you can calculate density. So again, even from the detector, you have to calculate density. Okay. So, and we already discussed the indirect methods of calculating density using speed and flow and spacing. Okay, so density studies are done using other variables. Okay, then we have accident studies, in which you try to gather accident characteristics, accident data. Now, what type of accident data you are gathering, or what is the use of that data? First of all, you try to gather the number of accidents and their frequency, how often they are happening. Okay, so they call it the rate of accident. So in your highway system, what is the rate of accidents? The rate can be in terms of time, or it can be in terms of population as well. For example, accidents per year, accidents per month. Okay, or it can be in terms of population. For example, accidents per person, or it's not per person, it's usually per 1,000 people or per 100,000 people. If you go and read the news articles, they will always give you the accident rate in terms of per unit of population. The unit of population is 1,000 people, 100,000 people, and it can be number of cars as well, number of accidents per 100,000 cars, and so on and so forth. Okay, so rate of accident, frequency in terms of population and in terms of time, and relationship to causal factors. Accidents can happen because of different causes, right? It can happen because of driver mistake, it can happen because of weather conditions, it can happen because of some design error. So all these are different causal factors which are causing the accidents. So what is the relationship of accident, like how many accidents are happening because of each cause? Okay, normally the cause is related to human behavior, but there are other causes as well. So you collect accident data, or you collect data about the causes of accident. So whenever the accident happens, you report it. The police comes, the insurance companies, and other organizations, they make a accident report, and the accident report, they analyze why the accident happened. Okay, so you collect the data about the causal factors, and then you collect data about accidents happening or connected to specific locations. There are specific locations on which accidents happen more often than the others, and you may have experienced it while you are moving around the highways. You may find there are some locations on which maybe every week or every month you will find 1 or 2 cars having an accident. Okay, so these locations on which the frequency of accidents is higher than the other locations are known as black spots. Black spots. So black spots are locations which have higher number of accidents. So if you go to the traffic directorate in Bahrain, they will give you, or they publish a booklet every year, and that booklet, they have a record of the black spots for that year, which location in Bahrain had the higher number of accidents. Now, if you gather the booklets, I did it for a few years. If you gather those booklets and you see the list of black spots, and then you see those locations now, the locations which were black spots, let's say 5 years ago, and you look at those locations now, you will find that they have made some changes on those locations, and the main reason for the changes was to avoid the accidents. Okay, so there are certain locations which were mentioned as a black spots, but since they were collecting the data, so they found the location which is a black spot, they investigated the accidents on that side, and they proposed and made some changes on that side. Okay, so that is another outcome of an accident study. Then we have parking studies. We have covered parking studies in the highway engineering course in more details, and I am like 99% sure you don't remember it. Okay, but again, we have already covered it. I will not go in the details, but in a parking study, you are trying to find out mainly these 3 things. There were other items we discussed there, but there are mainly these 3 things which you are trying to find out. First of all, the inventory of parking supply. What do we mean by inventory? Inventory means the record of existing assets, existing items, what items you have right now, what items you own right now. So shops maintain their inventory. You know, every shop owner has its own inventory. Every store keeper has its own inventory. What are the items inside the store? What are the items which are now in the shop? So whenever you buy an item, that item goes out from the inventory. Okay, so that item comes in your inventory then. So inventory of parking supply is the record of the parking spaces. How many parking spaces you have, where do you have them, the location, their timing, and so on. Okay. Then parking accumulation, meaning how many vehicles are parked at a particular time and stand in the parking area. So how full is the parking area at different time intervals. This is parking accumulation. And then total parking demand, how many people are using the parking area in the whole day, and so on. Okay. In addition, so these things are collected from the parking area. Sometimes this data collection is not enough, and you have to do some interview studies as well. Okay, the interview studies are conducted to investigate the attitude of the travelers. Okay, and I already discussed it in the initial slides. So attitude or behavior means you are trying to find out how and why, and for the case of parking, when. Okay, so whenever we use a term, we are whenever we say we are trying to find out the behavior or attitude of the traveler, we are basically trying to answer 2 questions: how and why. But for parking study, there's a when question as well. Okay, so how did you get to this parking area? From where did you come? Why did you come here? Why did you come here? Okay, and then when. Okay, at what time do you need the parking facility? At what time you are using the parking space in this facility? So when do you arrive usually? Okay, so obviously this data cannot be collected from the parking area unless you ask the driver. why, how, and why and when. Okay, obviously you see a car, you do not know why this person has come to this area, from where he is coming, why to this place, why not to some other place, and so on. Okay, so you have to do some interview studies with them. And then we have studies for goods movement and transit studies. Now, goods movement, goods doesn't mean the opposite of bad. Goods means the material products, okay, non-living things, okay, and we all know goods are mainly transferred on the roads through trucks. Okay, so we are talking about traffic studies. So we will focus on trucks. We will not talk about ships and airplanes, right? Although they are also for goods movement, but they are not part of our studies. So goods studies means studying about goods movement studies means studying about movement of trucks. Then transit means the mode of transportation which carries the bulk number of passengers. Okay, so if you consider a car only takes like 4 or 5 people at a time, and if they are alhamdulillah healthy like me, they will not be even 4 or 5, they will be less. So they are mainly buses. Transit vehicles are mainly buses. Okay, so transit studies means studying the movement of buses. Okay, so this whole thing means studying the movement of trucks and buses. Okay, why we need to study them separately? Because they become an important cause of congestion. A couple of years ago, some of my students were doing a project, and they actually took this highway and the Salmabad road, on which they are removing the roundabouts and putting signals. Okay, so they found they were analyzing those roundabouts and those highways, and they found that one of the easiest way to reduce congestion on roads is to not allow buses and trucks during the peak hours. And last year, some of my other students did a survey, and they found that on the Sheikh Zayed Highway near the driving school, you can further reduce the congestion if you not allow the learning vehicles, the learning drivers at the time of peak hours. Okay. But trucks and obviously learning vehicles are a special case, but trucks and buses are an important cause of congestion. Even within the educational area, even within our educational area, when it was fully open, the main congestion was caused when the buses were on the road. Okay, because they take more space and time. So you have to find out their inventory, how many buses and trucks we have. Again, inventory means the number, the record. And you have to consider their movement, which route they are taking, and what is their proportion on each road, and so on. So like I said, then you can do proper planning and devise operational policies for them, on which roads they should be allowed, which roads should be designed for their movement, on which times they should be allowed, and so on. Okay, so this is why they are important. Then we have pedestrian studies. So pedestrians, I showed you in the first slide of this chapter that now the concept of modern data collection has changed. Now we are not talking about only collecting data about vehicles. You have to consider other modes of transportation as well. So one of the most important alternate modes of transportation is walking. And while you are walking, we call you pedestrians. Okay, so you are part of the transportation system. You are part of the demand of transportation system. So we need to consider it. Okay. So why do we need to consider it? We need to consider their crossing, basically, at what places they will cross and how they will cross, because this is where most of the accidents happen involving pedestrians. Okay, so they can cross at intersections, whether they are signalized or unsignalized, or they can cross at mid-block locations. What are mid-block locations? Locations where locations between the two intersections. Okay, so after you cross one intersection, before you reach the next intersection, that whole segment is known as a mid-block location. So their crossings can happen. Basically, the point is they can cross from any point. There can be any possible crossing point, whether at the intersection or away from the intersection. So you need the input data about from where they are crossing and what are their characteristics. For example, walking speed is the most important characteristic for crossing or for pedestrian data. And then the type of pedestrian in terms of their age, in terms of their abilities. Okay, we have earlier discussed in chapter 3 that the walking speeds can change because of that. Again, for complementing the pedestrian studies, We can also do some interview studies again to know the behavioral patterns. And again, whenever we say behavior, we mean what, how and why. How did you come to this point? How did you come to this crossing point? And why are you crossing from this point? Okay, so obviously you cannot know these questions unless you ask the pedestrian himself or herself. Then we have calibration studies. In calibration studies, we are basically trying to develop some equations. They are calling them models. So models means equations. And what is the purpose of having the equations? So we can calculate the factors, the actual factors, without going in the field, right? So we want to find out about the actual traffic conditions without going to the field. We want to calculate the actual data, the accurate data from the equation. Okay, so we want to replicate. Replicate means we are trying to have something from the equation which is actually happening on the highway. Okay, so we want to develop some equations which will give us the actual traffic conditions. So in every equation there are some constants. Okay, so we have used constants such as perception reaction time. We have used constants such as average headway, average spacing. So all these things come from where? From traffic studies. Okay. Then in the last chapter, we developed or we drive some equations between speed, flow, density, and headway and spacing. So how did we drive those equations? Using some parameters from the traffic. So if you remember, when we were driving the first equation we drive was between speed and density, which you can see here as well. See the first one. And how did we drive this equation? There was a straight line, and we said the equation of the straight line is this, and then we put the numbers and the parameters from the graph in the equation, the slope and the y-intercept and so on. So the first step was plotting the graph. From the graph we went to the equation, and from one equation we drive the other equations. So the first step was plotting the graph. So how did I plot the graph? You collected, plot the data. As a step which we actually didn't do was getting the data from the field. Then you had the graph, and then you had the equations. Okay, so this is what we call as calibration studies. Okay, and we have observational studies. I told you very briefly earlier about it as well. Whenever you make any improvement or whenever you make any change on the field, normally the change is in terms of putting a new traffic control device, a new sign, a traffic signal, changes in the pavement marking. So these are normal changes we make, normal improvements we make. So after you make the improvements, you need to go back to the site and do an observational study to see the effectiveness of your change. Okay, normally these studies are very short because you are focused on one particular aspect of traffic, and you are focused on it from the perspective of one change. So I put a new speed hump. Did I reduce the speed because of the speed hump or not? So you can find it out in just like 10-15 minutes. So the earlier speed was 70 kilometers per hour. Now I'm having the speeds below 70 kilometers per hour. Fine, I've reduced the speed. Okay, and this is you are done. Observational studies. Okay. So in observational studies, you are trying to check the design and implementation of your change or traffic control device. So did you design the device correctly? And if you design it correctly, is it implemented correctly? Sometimes you design it properly, but when it goes to the field, it's like you designed an apple and it is now a banana. So this is how much the change can be. Okay, so and this is a normal practice for any construction work. You do the check after you have made the change. Okay, so this is again a part of observational study for traffic. Now we will discuss the data collection methodologies. Methodologies for collecting traffic data, and there are three types of methodologies: manual studies, semi-automated, and fully automated studies. We'll start with manual studies. Manual data collection means what? You go to the field and you remain in the field till the time the data is fully collected. So you are the person who has to be there, and you are the person who is recording the data as well. You are recording the data. Somebody is recording the data. Okay. Now these studies obviously cannot be done for long durations. Human beings are not. They get exhausted, and obviously when they are exhausted, then they cannot perform well. Okay, so you have to make sure that they are not fully exhausted. Okay, so normally, so if I ask you, I need daily volume. Daily volume means we have to collect data for 24 hours. If you go for a manual study, obviously nobody can stand on the field and keep on collecting data for 24 hours. You need different. You need to make different shifts. Okay, so then you will say, okay, fine, I will make shifts of 5-6 hours. So after 5-6 hours, the observer will change. But even for 5-6 hours, if you are doing it continuously, and I have tried it, that by the end of your time period, you will be fully exhausted. So it's that type of a job. The nature of traffic data collection job is like that. By the time you reach the end of your observation time period, you are already exhausted, and you will, try to finish it as quickly as possible. Okay, and obviously then you will make some errors. Okay, so we do not prefer manual data collection for longer time periods, as short as possible. As short as possible. A guideline is given that it should never be 24 hours or more, but it doesn't mean that for less than 24 hours you will always go for manual technique. No, it's just a suggestion and advice. At 24 hours or more, don't go ever for manual data collection. But even for less than 24 hours, you can go for automated techniques. Okay, or even for more than 24 hours, if you are, a teacher like me who doesn't have any equipments and he has to employ the students, even for more than 24 hours, we have to employ the students. Okay, and we have done that. People even in the industry, they do that. Okay, they don't have so many equipments, they do go for manual data collection. But these guidelines, what I'm showing you, are what you should do. But obviously in the field, there are some as well. Okay, so manual data collection techniques can be applied where? First of all, it should be for shorter duration. Secondly, you will find it written with each of the points here. It should be for a small number of locations, possibly for one. And if it is for more than one, then it should be a very small number of locations. So for example, if I ask you to collect the data from all highways of Bahrain, there will be thousands of points. To collect data for thousands of points, you have to employ like half of Bahrain, which is not good. Everybody has their job. Okay. And if you do it one by one, then it will take you like your lifetime. Okay. So if the number of locations are very high, or the time duration is long, then you don't go for manual data collection. Okay. So manual data collection is for short durations and for limited number of locations. In most of the cases, one. Okay, I think I lost the connection, but now I'm back, right? You can hear me, right?
Yes, Dictor.
Okay, thank you. So, so I was saying I have checked the first submission of your project, and I have given my comments wherever required. So if you have no comments, that means you are fine. You can go ahead to the next step if you know. Otherwise, I will explain in the next chapter what is the next step. So you can go to the group which I made for you, and you can are any comments or not. Okay, so you can do traffic counting again for one location or for a small number of locations. You can collect speed or travel time data. Again, all of you have done it for your project using the stopwatch or using the app. You already collected speed and travel time data, but it should be for one location and for short duration. Observance studies can be done for specific locations, again for short duration. Observance studies are by nature for short duration, and they are for a specific location. Because I told you, you do observation study for a location where you made a change. So obviously it will be a specific location. Okay. And since you are focusing on one particular change, so you do it for a very short duration. Okay. Then we have intersection delay studies. Intersection delay studies are also by nature short in duration, because we are focused on the delay which is in the peak hours. Okay, so it is by nature short duration. There are other reasons for doing intersection delay studies manually. Intersection delay studies are normally conducted manually, and the reasons for them we will discuss them later on. Okay, but intersection delay studies are again by default done manually. So we will discuss some manual studies here. Okay, but this is just these are just few examples. Okay, so you can do manual counting, as I said. Okay, so I showed you hand counters in the previous slides as well, and then the counting app as well. So you do the manual counting using these counters. Okay, now in the last chapter we have seen the counts are taken for 15 minutes period, right? If you remember the example about Q and the peak hour factor, we were recording the counts, or the counts were given for 15 minutes. So from 5 to 5:15 one count was given, and then from 5:15 to 5:30 another count was given. Okay, so at 5:15 you stopped the counting and you started from zero again. From after 5:15 you started from zero again. So if you are doing it with a counter, so you are clicking the counter, tick 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 tick, and the counter is adding 1 1 1 1 1, and so at the end of 15 minutes 100. Okay, now I need to write this number somewhere. Okay, and then if I want, I need to set the counter to 0 again so that I can start again, or at least I will write the number on a paper so that when I reach the next 15 minutes, I know what was the previous sitting, and I can subtract the numbers and get the count for the present 15 minutes, right? So the last 15 minutes were 200. Now it is showing 450. So 450 minus 200 gives you 250. So you have the count for this 15 minutes now. Okay, so you have to do something now. When the 15 minutes finish, when your counting periods finish, you have to either reset the counter, you have to write the number somewhere, you have to save the number, you have to do something. Okay, so when you are doing this, when you are writing the number, resetting the counter, the beacon is stopping for you, they are moving, so your count is disturbed. Your count is disrupted. It has a break now. It has a discontinuity. It has a discontinuity, and it will always happen whenever you are doing manual counting. There will always be some discontinuity. Okay, even if you are doing it on paper, with a paper your count can get discontinued even before the 15 minutes finish, because you know you may run out of papers even before the 15 minutes. Okay, so you will be changing the sheets of paper and so on. Okay, so you have some discontinue in the manual counting. So how do we incorporate that? Okay, so we incorporate short breaks within the counts. Okay, so whenever you are doing manual counting, you devise a plan in which breaks are already given to the observer. So you tell him, this is your break, this 2 minutes is your break. Reset the counter, change the sheets, change your placement, drink water, whatever you want to do it in these 2 minutes. Okay, so since you already know that even if you don't give the break is there, so you plan the break. Okay, you plan the break so that it is uniform and systematic. Okay, so we don't leave it to the observer when he is taking the break and for how long. We plan the break. Okay, so the break should be uniform, meaning it has a constant period, constant duration. So if you plan the break for 2 minutes, then every break will be for 2 minutes. The observer cannot say, okay, fine, initially I will take it for 2 minutes, but after 2 hours I will be more tired, so I will take it for 5 minutes. No, it's 2 minutes from start to end. Okay. Secondly, it should be systematic. Systematic means that the interval of the break, the frequency of the break is also planned. It's also fixed. So you will have a 2 minute break after every 10 minutes, or you will have a 2 minutes break after every 15 minutes, whatever. So you plan the duration of the break and you plan the interval of the break, the frequency of the break. Why? Because if the break is consistent and constant, then I can approximately calculate. I have equations to calculate the number of vehicles which I missed during the break. Okay, but these equations only work if the break was constant and consistent, uniform and systematic. If the observer was taking the break as per his own judgment, as per his own mood, then those equations will not be applied. That means the count during the break is lost. okay, that period is wasted. But if he is taking the break as per our plan, then we can calculate the numbers which we have missed, approximately, obviously, approximately, using some equation. I will show you the equation in the next slide. But the break can be included in the counting period in two ways. It can be part of the counting period, or it can be an alternative period between the two counting periods. Meaning what? If it is part of the counting period, then you say counting period is 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, you have a break of 1 minute or 2 minutes. So you are actually counting for 13 minutes. Out of 15, you will count for 13 minutes, and the remaining 2 minutes are for your break. Okay. So he will stop. He will start at minute 1 and at minute 15, but between them he will take break of 1 or 2 minutes, whatever you have planned. Okay, I'm just saying the example. I'm saying the numbers for example. Okay, the numbers are not fixed. So this is counting period within the. This is break period within the counting period, and then you can have break as an alternative of the counting period. So for example, you tell him count for 10 minutes, have a break for 10 minutes, then count for 10 minutes, have a break of 10 minutes, and so on. Okay, so this is another way of having breaks or giving or planning the breaks for the observer as an alternative period. In both the cases, we will use simple equations to calculate the count in the missing period. Let me show you the equation. This is for the first case, and this one is for the second case. This is for the first case when the when the break period is part of the counting period. Okay, so for example, the counting, again, the numbers are just an example. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever. So you have a 5-minute counting period. Your counting period is total 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, 1 minute is break. 1 minute is your break time. Okay. So when you give me a value after 5 minutes, that value is recorded in how many minutes? 4 minutes. Okay. So the count is for 4 minutes. Okay. And then you apply this equation to the count to find out the count of vehicles in 5 minutes. What is this equation? Vy is number of vehicles observed in y minutes. This is the actual counting period. So for the example of this case, y will be 4 minutes. Okay, so number of vehicles observed in 4 minutes equals v. V is the count which I want for the actual counting period. So in this case, v is the number of vehicles in 5-minute period. Oh, sorry. Vy is the number of vehicles I want for the actual counting period. So y is 5 minutes here. Okay, and v is the number of number of vehicles which you gave me for the actual counting period, which was 4 minutes. Okay, so v in this case is 100 vehicles, and this is taken in 4 minutes. Then you multiply by y, divide by x. Y is the number of minutes for which you want the count, and x is the number of minutes for which the count is taken. So for this example, y will be 5 and x will be 4. Okay, how did I get this equation? V in 4 minutes or v in x minutes. So v upon x will give me vehicles per minute. Then I multiply with y, which is the number of minutes I want. So it will give me the count in y minutes. Okay, so it's a simple ratio approach. Divide by the number of minutes in which you are taking the count. You get per minute count, and you multiply with the number of minutes you want the count. Okay. So in this example, how much count will I have? So I'm trying to calculate v5 here. Okay, so it is v, which is given. What is I? I didn't get to that equation. Hold your horses. Okay, I didn't get to that equation. I'm talking about the first equation. Okay, so v5, because I want the vehicle count for 5 minutes, and v is 100, which is taken in 4 minutes, multiply by 5, the number of minutes for which I want the count, divide by 4, the number of minutes for which the count is taken. So how many minutes? How many vehicles will I have in 5 minutes? 125. Now coming to the second approach. Second approach is having break as alternative counting period. Okay. So for example, you started counting at 9. From 9 to 9:15, you made the count. Then from 9:15 to 9:30, break. 9:30 to 9:45 count. Okay. So I have a count missing from 9:15 to 9:30, right? I have a count from 9 to 9:15, then missing, and then I have a count after that period, which is from 9:30 to 9:40. Okay. So let's say I is the counting period which is missing. So for this example which I was saying, I is from 9:15 to 9:30. Okay, so VI means number of vehicles in the missing missing counting period. Okay, so number of vehicles from 9:50 to 9:30. Okay, equals VI minus 1. What is I minus 1? The period before I. So for my example, it is from 9 to 9:15. So VI minus 1 means number of vehicles during 9 to 9:15. And I plus 1 is the period after I, which is 9:30 to 9:45. So VI plus 1 means number of vehicles from 9:30 to 9:45. Okay, so you add them and you divide by 2. So what did we do? You took the average. Okay, so the missing count equals the average of the count before it and the count after it. Okay, so this is why I said the break should be uniform and systematic, consistent, so that I can take a simple average or I can take a simple ratio here to find the count in the missing period. Okay, if the break was not consistent, then these ratios and the average will not work. The equation will become more complicated, more complex. Okay, which I don't want. Now let me show you an example. We will do a part of the example today, and we will do a part of the example on Thursday. So we want traffic volume on a 4-lane highway. Okay, so these are the two directions of the highway, eastbound and westbound, and each direction has 2 lanes, lane 1, lane 2. Okay, and the count is required for 15 minutes. Okay, so my counting period is 15 minutes, but if you see the numbers are given for 12 minutes. So for 12 minutes I have a count, then I have a 3-minute break, and then I have another 12 minute. Okay, so within the counting period there is a break of 3 minutes. Within a 15-minute counting period there's a break of 3 minutes. Okay, so this is for the first approach. But if you look at the numbers given in the columns, we have alternative missing numbers as well. Alternative numbers are missing. So from 4 to 412 I have a number, then I have missing for lane 2, then I have another number for 430 to 442. Okay, so the alternate period is also missing. So the break is within the counting period, and there is an alternative missing count as well. Okay, now why this happened? They have 4 lanes. Okay, now you can, and from the looks of things, it seems like they have 2 observers or 2 sensors or detectors, whatever they're using. We are discussing manual count, so they have 2 observers. So if one observer is recording volume from 2 lanes simultaneously, then from 2 lanes you can have vehicles passing simultaneously. Okay, so then it will become difficult for you to get the number from both the lanes, accurate number. You will be missing a lot of vehicles. But if I assign you to 1 lane, only count the number of vehicles in 1 lane, and in 1 lane it is very easy. Vehicles will pass one by one. Okay, so it becomes easier. So that's why they are using this approach. So 1 observer for eastbound, 1 observer for westbound. The observer in the eastbound went to lane 2 at 4, and from 4 to 412 he recorded this number. Then he had a break of 3 minutes, and then he went to the other lane, and from 415 to 427 he recorded this number. Okay, so although for lane 2 the number was missing, but this is not missing because the observer was taking a break. The observer didn't take a break in this time period. He was on the other lane. His actual break is how many minutes? 3 minutes. From 412 to 415, this is his break. From 415 to 427, he went to the other lane. He was recording the other lane. So the alternate counts are missing because of the shifting of the observer, not because the observer was taking a break. Okay, so this is a unique case where you have both types of breaks, and you have to apply both types of equations which I showed you in the previous slide. Okay, same thing for the observer in the westbound as well. He started from lane 2, had a break of 3 minutes, went to the other lane, and so on. Okay. Now you can apply the same methodology in the final step of your term project when you are doing the volume count. Okay, you can plan your breaks and you can take the counts, and then you can convert the numbers by using the approach which I will tell you now. Okay, so this is fine. You can have the breaks and you can do it. Okay, so the count here is taken from 4 to 6 p.m. almost, and we have to convert them into continuous 15 minutes counts. Continuous 15-minute counts. Okay, so first of all, so I will tell you few numbers and the remaining are given in the slides. Okay, you can have a look. So I will just explain the calculation for few numbers. Let us take this one, 360. 360 is for 12 minutes. I want the count for 15 minutes. So I will apply this equation. Okay, so 360 multiply by 15, the count by which I want, divide by 12, the count which is taken. Okay, so it will be how much? 450. Okay, approximately 450. Okay, in the book they have written 451 actually, but 450 is fine. Okay, so with all the given numbers, with all these numbers, you have to do, first of all, convert the 12-minute to 15-minute counts. First step. So these numbers are converted to 15 minutes, the corresponding number. Okay, the number which is missing, I will tell you just now how they are calculated. So 360 is converted to 450 and 380 is converted to 475. Now they are the number missing between them, right? Okay, so when you convert the numbers, you will have some missing cells here in this table. They have already filled the missing cells, so I will tell you how did they fill the missing cell. So eastbound, you see here, eastbound lane 2, second number is missing, right? Second time period is missing. Okay, but they have written 463 here. How did I get 463 here? Let me tell you that. So the number before that, after converting to 50 minutes, is 450, and the number after it, after converting to 50 minutes, is 475. So the number between them will be the average of these two numbers. So for eastbound lane 2, 415 to 430, I will get the number as the average of 450 plus 475 divided. Okay, so this should be 463. Okay, so whenever, first of all, convert the 12-minute to 15-minute counts, then whatever counts you have missing between the two numbers, you take the average of the two numbers, you have the number in the middle. Okay, so this is okay. So I'm just looking at the first part of the table. Okay, first part of the table. So this is 463 which I just calculated, and this is 450 which I calculated from 360. Okay, now so whenever you have number on the top, number at the bottom, you can calculate the number in the middle by taking the average. But what about this number? Lane 1 eastbound first number, or lane 2 eastbound last number? Average of what? I cannot use the average equation here. Okay, so for these numbers which are at the end of the time period or at the start of the time period, I will tell you what to do. First of all, you have, so I'm trying to fill out the first number here. Okay, so they have written it 426. Now there is some rounding off here. Okay, keep this in mind. So the plus minus 1 error will be there because of rounding off. Now how did I get 426 here? All numbers are already converted to 15 minutes, and the missing numbers in the middle are already calculated using the average. Okay, so only number remaining is this one, this last one, this first one, and again this last one. So 4 numbers are remaining. I'll tell you this first one and this last one, and this will be the same. So how did I get 426? Take the difference of the two immediate numbers. So take the difference of 451 and 438. Okay, their difference will be 13. Then you apply the same difference to 438 to get the next number. Okay, so as I told you, there is some rounding off here. Okay, so instead of 13, you see they have subtracted 12 here. Okay, but it is, the difference is because of rounding off. Okay, actually just take the difference of these two numbers and then subtract from 438 to get 426. Now why I am saying subtract it? Because 415 to 438, the number is reducing, right? So from 438 you're going up, it will further reduce. Okay, just to avoid confusion, let me tell you from this row, it will be more clear. So the two numbers are 444 and 425. I'm trying to calculate the last one. So from 444 to 425, the difference is 19. Okay, and you can see it is decreasing. 444, 425, it is decreasing. So the next number will be subtract 19. So 425 minus 19, you get 406. Okay, same thing here. 407, 388. The difference is, I don't know, 19 again, I think so. Okay, so you subtract 19 again, because again it is reducing, you will get 369. Okay, so whenever you have a number on the top or you have a number at the bottom of the time period, then you take the difference in the two immediate numbers and then apply the same difference to the last number. Okay, so I'm stopping here. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? We'll continue with the same example in the on Thursday. Okay, if it is fine, some points regarding the test. Yeah, 463. Volume is never written in fractions. Volume is never written in fractions. Keep it in mind. Okay. You can write 462 or 463. Like I said, rounding off error plus minus 1 is okay. Got it? 462.5, you can write 462 or 463. Both are fine, but volume is never written as a fraction. Okay. Now, something regarding the test. First of all, everybody got different questions, even MCQs and true and false. Okay, but some people complained about the numericals. Okay, you should have complained then for everything, right? Because you may not have prepared for one MCQ and it came to you. But the MCQs and true and false, the choices were given, so nobody had a problem. But for numericals, okay, I tried my best to give the numericals of the same level. You know, even if I give one numerical to everybody, the same one, you can have a problem if you didn't prepare for it. So I feel, I may be wrong, okay, I'm just a human being. I feel that some of the topics which we covered in the end, you did not prepare so well, okay, and those topics were new, the other topics were from highway. So you were, these topics were new, so you were taking more time. This is what I feel. Okay, anyways, but just to relax you, just to calm you, if I feel that the students who did a particular question, all of them had a problem with that particular question. Okay, so maybe out of 80, 10 people had a particular question, and all those 10 people had the same problem, had the problem with that question. Then I may give you some relaxation for that question. Okay, fine. So if now I have the results from both the sections, I can judge, okay, that which question created problem for everybody. I'm not talking about one or two students, for everybody. Then I will give you some relaxation, maybe some bonus marks. Okay, so for as far as this test is concerned, fine. Okay, you are good. Now for future, I will tell you your mistakes. First of all questions were on the same page, so you can see both the numericals at the same time. Some of you attempted the longest one first. Why? Even if you are solving by hand, you don't do it. Even in a paper exam, don't do it. Do the easier one first. Okay, people were saying were sending me like 3 lines answers. Okay. 3 lines, just type it. Okay, don't have to wait for the other question to complete. Okay, you can even type it in the blackboard. Plus minus sign, multiply, divide sign, all everything is there. You don't have to take the picture and so on. If you can type something in 1 or 2 lines, just do it. Okay, so you made your work difficult by doing this. Okay, first of all, not considering doing it directly, and secondly, by choosing the wrong question to do at the start. Okay, choose the easier one first, the smaller one first, which you can do faster. So the marks for that question are secured. Okay, second mistake was, one guy he sent me or he showed me the picture of the paper where both the questions were solved. So he was waiting to solve both the questions to upload it as one page. What is this? You are not printing anything. Just solve it. If you solve one, take the picture and upload it. Okay. Even today, the people from the other course are asking me, should I make one file for both the answers? Why? One answer is ready, upload it. So do you have the marks? Okay. These are some of the mistakes which I don't want you to make in the future. Another mistake, contacting me at the wrong time. One guy said, I didn't know where is the option to upload. Then you contact me during the quiz. It will just take a message. You are messaging me after the quiz. Okay. So, or immediately after the quiz. Somebody contacted me 10 minutes after the quiz. In those 10 minutes, I don't know what you were doing. Maybe you solved the question after the quiz finished. How can I say that? Okay, so contact me at the right time when you're having the problem. Okay. Secondly, choose the questions wisely. The good thing, alhamdulillah, is that all the questions are on the same page. Okay. In the other exams, you may have more numericals. Then what would you do? Okay, it will ruin the whole exam. And I will try to, obviously, I have the experience now. Alhamdulillah, system worked fine. I was more worried about that. But now, since you have, in future, I want you to take care of this. Ali, you have a question? Okay, so I will go for the attendance now. One minute late. If now you put me in a difficult situation. If I say yes, it will start something in the next test, right? And everybody would saying I submitted 1 minute late and so on. By 1 minute late, you mean what? By 1 minute late, you mean what? You took 51 minutes. The test was 50 minutes, and you took 51 minutes. If you mean that, then obviously I will deduct some marks. Okay, but if you mean 1 minute late, that you started late, it's fine. Okay, Dua Rabi. Dua Rabi. Amna Muhammad. Muhammad Usama. Okay, Amal is here. If you see me marking your attendance, you can leave. Muhammad Oman. Okay, Ali is here. Hakima Ali. Zahra Sayyid Ali. Fawaz Adil. Fawaz Adil. Okay. Abdullah Jaliluddin. Abdurrahman Ibrahim. Nujul Salah. Nujul Salah. Okay, Nadine is here. Zahra Riyad. Okay, Nujul is here. Zahra Riyad. Okay. Abu Bakr is here. Zainab is here. And Majd Bashar. Majd Bashar. Asil Hassan. Okay. Ali Mustafa. Abdullah Usamuddin.
Present.
Hamad Khalid. Okay. Latifa is here. Fatma Abdali. Okay. Zainab Abdali. Okay. Zainab Abdali. Okay. Zainab Abdul Al. Ala Salman. Ala Salman. Okay. Isra Abdul Kareem. Ali Abdul Razak. Okay. Elizabeth Ann. Ali Makki. Okay. Ibrahim is here. Okay, fine. Absentees are Ali Mustafa, Majd Bashar, and Dua Rabi. Going for section 1. If anybody from section 1 is here. Majid is here? No? Nadir Abdul Monim? Khalid Qasim? Abrar Amir? Okay. Yes, Ali, I will mark you. Okay, you can leave.